This video will take us through how to do the rear drum brakes on an MGB. So let's get over to the camera. You can see that this is a wire wheel model, not by the spinner. And on a wire wheel model, you get 4 retaining bolts to the outside. Okay. On the metal wheel model, there's 2 screws here and here. So subtle difference between the two. Apart from that, it's the same. You have the handbrake mechanism coming off the back here and going off round, obviously, to the handbrake lever. And over the top here, you have the little square piece, square screw set. And once I've taken off the front cover, you'll see how that all works. Just to show you on my Mini, here the Mini is with the 2 screws on the drum, as opposed to the 4 nuts that we saw, 4 bolts that we saw for the wire wheel version. So this is the same fixing here as you'd see in terms of the metal wheel version. Tools to take this apart. You have your 3/4 for the nuts on the outside. Screwdriver is always useful, actually, just to leverage off in terms of the drum brake. And then this is the little 1/4 inch square spanner to release the brakes on the back. So having got the tools ready here, actually the first thing that we need to do is to release the handbrake. Always when working on rear drum brakes, first thing you do is release the handbrakes. Here is the handbrake adjuster, and this is just a simple 9/16 and unwind it. Okay. If you take a bit of pressure off, it just makes it even quicker. Anything you do on the brakes, always start and finish here. So start by taking off all the tension on the handbrake system here and finish off by adjusting the handbrake system. And give it a big I find that is never enough to get the thing to move, and so I just gently ease it around with the screwdriver. Just working evenly around it. Not putting too much pressure on the back plate. And there we go, all off. Check your inside, looking just for any scouring around the edges. Should be nice and clean, and that is. Put that to one side. Then you need to look at your interior. Okay, so here we've got the brake adjuster, and this has a screw through the middle that's adjusted by a screw on the back there. Your plates have a leading and a trailing edge. And the leading edge is this long edge, long bare metal edge. The wheel rotates in that direction as you move forwards. That's your leading edge, not the short one. And both leading edges should be there, so it shouldn't be symmetrical. It should continue leading edge, leading edge. These are the little spring clips. You can do this using your pliers. Much easier using this. And then you have a series of springs through the different things. So here's the spring going on to handbrake, springs at the back, and at the back between the two shoes on either side. So the next thing to do is to just release the brake. If you watch closely, you'll see them moving. And what we need to do is just wind this back out. So that what it is a conical screw, so it's just pushing two little pistons out, and those two little pistons are what make up the adjustment. But you can see why I've said you take off the tension here, because that's coming through to these two here, the inner arms of the handbrake lever. So if you've got a tension on there and it's too tight, you've got these pushed out onto the drum, and then the drum's extremely difficult to remove. The other thing you need to look at this stage is, are these nice and dry? Very dry. So no problems at all there in terms of a leak. Okay, so now we can just try and remove these. Not always as easy as it sounds. They're just a little piece that comes through from the back, and that's the little head that we're trying to catch. Leave them in there so I know where they are. And then we need to release some springs. This is always the fun bit. So start at the front. Okay. It's good to take a photo at this point if you aren't too familiar with the arrangement. If you're happy that you know how it goes, then that's fine. And I always lay these down in the box in the same way, in which the same orientation in which they're going to go at the top. Now that you've got that spring off, you can happily just start to manipulate these out. There we go. Getting those out takes all the tension off, and then you can get it off top and bottom. And then you've taken off a lot of the tension, which makes just easing springs through the system so much easier. There we go. So that's that shoe. Quick look at the shoe. A little bit of damage on the edge of the shoe there. But generally speaking, the shoe's in nice condition. That's the top spring. Right there. Bit of damage. Otherwise, good condition. And then we get to my big problem. This is stiff. So I'm going to take it out and clean it all up. And to take it out, I just need to separate it at the back here. as bad as I thought it was going to be, because it was very stiff inside the unit there. You have to work out which way up they go. So that one sits that way up. Okay, that's the whole thing apart. Cleaned up, it's moving nice and smoothly. Put a little bit of silicone WD-40 in the bottom. So feed it back through the boot. Make sure your boot's well fitted, because that really does keep a lot of the crap out. So that's back in position there. Then you've got the fun and games of feeding in the various brake shoes. Make sure you So, in at the top, in at the bottom. What I'm missing is that on there. In at the top. Then we get on to the more fun, which is trying to fit the second one. So, get your one at the bottom through, because that's the difficult one. Onto the shoe. So the bottom, spring return through there, and put the spring in at the top. Just get that bed through. Spring through at the top. And just rest it on the other side. Press that one in. Through at the top. And there we go. So your springs at the top, springs at the bottom. Check that's all functioning nicely. Now, I've not done it on this occasion because I did it last time. I put a little bit of copper grease on the rub points, doesn't go amiss. Last piece is a spring over the top. There we go. And you notice there's a lot of movement available. So what you need to do is try and get those even, because when you're putting back on the faceplate, it's going to be impossible if they're not even. You've got to watch more. There's good little spring returns. There we go. There's some split pin. There's the cable. It just runs up. You see with all the tension off how easy it is to actually refit this. You just want to make sure you've just got roll. You get this out of the way of the rotating wheel. There. So that's the cable done. First it'll tighten up on the brake, a little square over the back. And I think talk about it being free running, but of course you're working the diff and the axle, so it's not nearly as free running as, say, for instance, on the Mini, where it's a trailing wheel. But to finish this off properly, we're going to have to put the wheel back on. We just want to access is much easier before you put the wheel on, so, and you know that you've wound it back quite a way. So you might as well get it roughly right without the wheel on. So now you can see that's difficult to move. It's approximately correct. I need to just put the wheel on, then I have to lie around and get around the back to actually be able to do the adjustment. What it should be is that it's relatively free moving, so that it's just beyond that is the point at which you want to set the brakes. It's not a long way beyond it. They say when it's a free moving wheel, not on an axle like this, you should be able to just spin it and it should turn for a turn and a half before it comes to rest, and then that will give you nice tight brakes, free enough that when it's rolling you've got no resistance from the brakes, but tight enough that your brake pedal is not soft at all in any way, shape or form. You get good positive braking, you get good balance if you set up both wheels like this. All of this you should do really, depending on your mileage obviously, but every year, certainly every 2 years, it doesn't take much to take off the disc, the drum, sorry, at all. But it's well worth doing, because then you can just make sure everything's okay, it's not leaking down the bottom here. That will be very serious for you in terms of putting fluid onto the drum itself, and therefore onto the brake linings and non-effective brakes. You always do this bit first before you redo the handbrake. That's just up to 3 notches, so we go back under and do what we did before, but in reverse under the car. But do both wheels, just set them up nicely, then do the handbrake to 3 notches. Your first sign that this is not right is when your handbrake's not effective, because your handbrake should be really effective. You should be able to stop yourself easily if there's 3 clicks on a sharp incline. If you're having to go all the way up on the pedal, that's actually a problem in here. Strip them down, do what we've just done, and you'll actually get them nice and working well. Okay, hope you've enjoyed. See you next time.